The Cleveland Browns really made a deal with the devil when they traded for Deshaun Watson. Because remember, when they first acquired Deshaun Watson from the Texans, the expectation was that he was going to be the missing piece that catapults them into Super Bowl contention, because Baker Mayfield was coming off a disappointing season. He played through injuries, and Kevin Stefanski in the front office felt like he was holding the team back. So they kick him to the curb. They replace him with Deshaun Watson, who comes with all of these off the field issues with the whole massage therapist thingy, all of these allegations coming out. So, in spite of that, you still expect to get one of the best quarterbacks in the league, because when Deshaun Watson was in Houston, he was a top 7, almost top 5 quarterback, depending on who you're talking to. And then all of a sudden, you go from being a team that looks like a Super Bowl contender to going back to being what you used to be. One of the worst teams in the NFL, one of the biggest clown shows in sports. Now, with the deal with the devil that the Browns have made with Deshaun Watson, it has tanked the trajectory of this franchise so bad to the point where the best player ever to wear a Cleveland Browns uniform, Myles Garrett, has requested a trade. You've wasted another all-world talent again. You did the same thing with Joel Thomas. The only difference between Joel Thomas and Myles Garrett is that Joel Thomas loved the organization. He loved the fan base. He loved the city of Cleveland too much to ever want to try to win elsewhere. He wanted to try to bring success to Cleveland, and he was unable to. They failed him. And Myles Garrett, they did the same. But the difference between him and Joel Thomas is that he said, it's like, I can get a new extension, and it's just at this point, I paid my dues here. I'm already a Hall of Famer, first ballot if I retire today. I've won Defensive Player of the Year already. I'm already at 100 career sacks. I have nothing really left to prove. Now it's time for me to go to the next stage of my career, which is trying to pursue a Super Bowl at this point. I want to actually play in meaningful games in January. I actually want to know that this long 8 months during the off season isn't going to go in vain. I want to know that I'm actually playing for a team that is trying to win, that has the opportunity to win. And right now, the Cleveland Browns don't have any opportunity to win, regardless of what they do at quarterback, because of how bad of a situation the deal with the devil has put them in. Deshaun Watson was supposed to be the guy that got the Cleveland Browns to the Super Bowl. And instead, he was the guy who brought this franchise right back down to what we've always known it to be. You were better off keeping Baker Mayfield. It was just one down season. But instead, they rolled the dice. And hindsight is 2020. At the time, most of us, if not all of us, expected for Deshaun Watson to be as good as what he was in Houston. The only few people that told me otherwise, I had a homie that told me that when you deal with those kinds of legal issues off the field, you never really return back to being that same player, because you're just never the same mentally after those experiences that you have to suffer in court, or it's just people attacking your character. And, he was somewhat right. I do feel like just mentally, Deshaun Watson just is nowhere close to ever being able to play football again. And not just because of the Achilles injury, which he ruptured again, which could be a blessing in disguise for the Browns, but also just even if he ever could get back in playing shape, just from a mental standpoint, everything that he's had to endure with the fans booing him when he got injured, the allegations, people thinking that he's a creep, he's the Diddy of the NFL. Yeah, trading for Deshaun Watson was signing a deal with the devil for the Cleveland Browns because, it looked good. The devil is all about deceiving. And the Browns got deceived by Deshaun Watson because he looked like a crown jewel. He looked like the missing piece to you becoming a Super Bowl champion. And once you got him, he completely poisoned everything that you worked so hard to build. You went from being a dark horse Super Bowl contender to now being one of the worst teams in the NFL. That's how bad the Deshaun Watson trade was. And that's why I call it the deal with the devil, because that's what Deshaun Watson was. He ruined everything, everything that made you so optimistic about the trajectory that the Browns were on just completely evaporated when you drafted him because everything just went left. And you only had success when the dude was injured with Joe Flacco. So that tells you everything that you need to know. The only time you were good with him on your roster was when he was unable to play.